At first they called it murder, a cold-blooded message from drug dealers, but tonight the guardian angels say it was all a bad mistake. Good evening, I'm Al Sanders. Denise Koch is on vacation. Last weekend, a 19-year-old guardian angel recruit was found dead, a bullet wound in his head. The angels cried murder. That wasn't the case. The night team's Lowell Deo has more.
For 5 days, the death of a guardian angel has fueled the Angels' anti-drug cause. Angels criticized Prince George's police for not finding the drug dealers who killed Dorian Brown. But when that fuel got hottest, it was the Angels that got burned. The dead angel, Dorian Brown, was with 2 other guardian angels.
The 3 began drinking alcohol, and Dorian Brown asked them to engage in a game of Russian roulette. The deceased, Dorian Brown, then placed the gun to his head and pulled the trigger, causing the gun to discharge.
Tonight's wake for Brown was to be a hero send-off. The newest developments changed all that.
Whether he's a hero or not, he was a guardian angel, and that still makes him my brother.
Well, we was wrong. Like Gerda said, we made a mistake. Emotions took us that way, and we made a mistake. We apologize to the police.
The Angels' leader, Curtis Schlewa, says if there is a bullet to bite, then he will bite it. He says he's sorry for criticizing police, but not as sorry for accusing 2 people of Brown's murder.
One is a crack-crazed, deranged individual who's committed a whole litany of crimes. And the other individual, even though I'll bite my tongue because he's involved in crack, I would personally apologize to him.
While at the funeral home, emotions are somber and quiet. Here at the apartment complex, where the guardian angels have been marching for a week now, protesting the drugs, protesting Dorian Brown's death, folks here say they feel betrayed.
They built something out of nothing to make it look good for them, but it turned out to be bad for the neighborhood because they embarrassed the neighborhood. And so as far as I'm concerned, we owe Kent Village residents an apology.
This evening, the Angels hit their familiar streets, only by now, the familiar speeches and the familiar cheers were gone. For the night team, Lowell Deo, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Schlewa says anyone who donated money to help bury Dorian Brown can get their money back if they want. Bloodshed tonight outside a Windsor Avenue home police describe as a crack house. A man told police he was shot and robbed of his drugs and left to die in the street. The gunman then sped away in a blue Ford Tiempo. The wounded man is in critical condition at Sinai Hospital. 22-year-old Bondi Tinkler remains hospitalized after being shot in the arm last night by police. Tinkler is suspected of robbing and murdering Pikesville businessman George Day last night and leading police on a high-speed chase in Day's car. Tinkler was shot after he smashed into several parked cars near Sinai Hospital.
A double shooting in northwest Baltimore sent 2 brothers to the hospital last night. 19-year-old Kelly Myers was shot in the stomach during a fight at the 5300 block of Hamlin Avenue. His brother, 18-year-old Barry Alexander, tried to help him and was shot in the head. Myers is in stable condition at Sinai Hospital. Alexander is in critical condition at University Hospital. Police are still looking for a suspect in that case.
Tonight we have a follow-up report to our Eyewitness News series, Sad Streets. Sandra Pinckney revisited the Belvedere corridor and shows us a group of teens who are excelling despite the odds.
Like most teenagers, Todd Chapman has a summer job. He weatherizes homes. But for this 16-year-old, summer work means more than earning some extra cash.
If it wasn't for this job, I think, that I'd be on the streets, in the crime scene,
And the streets of Todd Chapman's neighborhood make up the Belvedere corridor, where good people live in fear of a small group of drug dealers and their violence. 15 teenagers, including weatherizer Todd Chapman, escaped the violence this summer through the Northwest Baltimore Corporation. They got jobs and provided a weekly community service. And today they all graduated.
I've learned how to get up in the morning early, and I know what my mother and father feel like. And they taught me how to work on the computers and clerical work, and that'll help me in the future.
The money for the program, some $20,000, came from the state racetrack fund, but the support came from the neighborhood.
I think a lot of teenagers today want to work, but they don't have the opportunity, and by this way they had opportunity to work. And I think because we gave them the opportunity, the chance to work, they loved it.
A simple program, a simple idea. Give young people meaningful jobs, pay them, encourage them, support them, show them an alternative to a life on the streets where the lure of drugs and quick money is seen as the only way out. Sandra Pinckney, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
There's already talk of increasing the funding for next summer so that more teenagers can become involved. At this point, it's difficult to tell how the president's plan will affect people living in areas of Baltimore that are infested with drugs. But David Murphy reports there is no mistaking the need for help in one East Baltimore neighborhood.
It's an area like many others in Baltimore, East Preston Street, and police officer Gabe Bittner knows it well.
It's so dense with narcotics that that's the main focus up here, from complaints from the citizens, the community. We're just trying to effectively deal with it.
People around here say this is where Bush's drug program could help the most.
Playgrounds around this neighborhood don't get too much use these days. There are weeds growing out of the cracks in the concrete. Instead of athletes here, people I talk to say these courts are used mostly by drug dealers.
It's gotten so bad, mothers don't even let their children come here anymore.
You're scared, you're watching your kids around the clock, and it wasn't like that before.
But back into these small hours, make their dope deals.
So as night falls, police officers and parents will be turning from these streets to their TV sets and President Bush. But not everyone believes his message will matter. This man is a bail bondsman whose main business is bailing young pushers out of jail.
They might buy a car, they'll buy jewelry, they'll run around with a girl. But as far as investing money, that perhaps one day they might go into a small business, or go to trade school, or go to college. Never.
Bill says Bush's billions won't make a difference to high-flying dealers making thousands of dollars a week on the street. Others disagree.
It's got to benefit us in some way. It's got to be some type of help on that.
Others believe some dealers and users can be turned around, and they hope Bush's plan can do it. David Murphy, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
President Bush unveils his new drug plan tonight at 9 on Channel 13.
While George Bush talks about the drug problem in many of our neighborhoods, Officer John Herndon walks through one every day.
We can go along and have, as we do now, in any given block, we may have 30 to 40 people on the street. If an incident would occur where you would have an altercation between two persons, that number would swell to 200.
Reservoir Hill is widely known in this city as a community plagued with drug users and pushers, a group within a neighborhood that Officer Herndon has come to know like the back of his hand.
Hi, Glenn. How are you? If you're going to work here and they're going to know you, that I believe I get as much respect from them as I give them. And I think that's where the big difference comes in.
The problem of drugs is a nationwide one, but when you talk to the officers who deal with it on a daily level, they'll tell you the only prescription to the problem is getting more money into law enforcement of communities like this one. But Pauline Stewart believes that it'll take more than just increased funding to get the drugs out of her neighborhood.
Everybody in this block has got to realize that we have an emergency on our hands, and it's not a small problem, it's a gigantic one. It's just like when the plague came out.
But if Officer Herndon gets his way, this is one plague that's about to stop spreading. For the night team, Andrea Koppel, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
This is Rodeo. These folks could have been casualties in the war with drugs. They say discipline drills like this at Excel Treatment Center have made them straighter, wiser, even skeptical about what the president's speech will do to rehabilitate the casual drug user.
In a way, I do think it's more how to, I just think they're just going to talk about it. I don't think they're going to take no action.
James Young had his own car wash business. Morphine caused him to lose it all.
Well, he wouldn't understand if he's never done drugs.
Tony Williams doesn't think the president's words alone or federal money will solve anything. She says take it from one who smoked and snorted it all.
So we sat with James and Tony and a few others as they sat and watched the plan, trying to find out from people who'd been there if the plan would work.
They wanted to believe the words they heard, but most couldn't.
And I don't think it's going to come out of them.
If you had been somewhere, a bar in your living room, and you heard this speech, how would it have hit you?
I probably wouldn't have paid any mind because I'd probably been too busy getting high.
Mark Jett wonders if enough will be done for casual users.
$321 million doesn't sound like a substantial fund when you're talking about the whole United States.
Monique Hicks wants more specifics.
Start providing the funding. So that's the most important part.
These folks say they aren't pessimists. It's just that when you've spent so much time depending on drugs, it's hard to depend on promises. For the night team, Lowell Deo, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Ultimately, of course, the front line in the war on drugs will be manned by the states and the